Welcome into Steelers Talk, Yinzers. My name is Jack Sperry. This is Steelers Talk. Today, we are going to be talking about all of the players that the Steelers have been talking to at the NFL Combine, the players that they have met with both formally and informally. But before we get into today's Combine Meetings Tracker, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for Steelers draft coverage all off-season long. Everything from Steelers draft rumors just about every single day to prospect analysis on all the best players from round 1 to round 7. And then, of course, we have Steelers mock drafts here on the channel, about one every 2 weeks. So if that's your sort of thing, you want to know about all these prospects in preparation for the Steelers NFL draft this year, go ahead and click that subscribe button for me right now. So the way that the schedule works is that the way that we find out about which players teams are talking to is that on Wednesday, teams talk to defensive linemen and linebackers, then cornerbacks and safeties on Thursday. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends were today, and then tomorrow it's going to be offensive line and running back. So we're going to be talking about those first 3 days today, and we're going to start with, I think, what is the most interesting position group that the Steelers have been talking to at the Combine, which is wide receivers. Today they talked to Kenny Pickett's former #1 receiver, Jordan Addison at Pitt. He transferred to USC, had another really good season. He's one of the top wide receiver prospects in this year's draft class. He's a projected first-round pick, and many Steelers fans have suggested that Jordan Addison would be a good fit with the Steelers because he already has established chemistry with Kenny Pickett. And today at the podium, he had to say this about potentially linking up with Kenny Pickett and joining the Steelers. Hey man, if we reunite, that would be good. That'd be real cool. Real easy transition. Come get me. All right, so he's flat out telling the Steelers right now, guys, come and get me. Trade up for me. Or draft me at number 17 if you need to. Do whatever it takes to bring me back with my guy, Kenny Pickett. And it definitely seems like Kenny Pickett is in favor of this as well, posting a bunch of stuff on social media talking about how much of a dog Jordan Addison is. He's probably going to be pounding the table to get his wide receiver one from college with him in the black and gold. It's definitely interesting that he had a formal meeting with the Steelers. Another receiver that the Steelers talked to this week, Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State, another projected first-round pick, so another top wide receiver prospect potentially going to the Steelers. Talked about having a formal meeting with the Steelers today at the podium. And then also they talked with A.T. Perry from Wake Forest, a projected third-round pick. So it seems that even if they don't get their guy in the first round, they may go ahead and draft somebody on day 2. And then they also had an informal meeting with Zay Flowers, one of my favorite guys in this entire draft class. He's a first-round draft pick, in my opinion. They had an informal meeting with him as well. All these guys can play in the slot, and it's looking like that with these guys getting meetings, with the Steelers talking with some of these high-end draft prospects that are going to go high in the draft, it tells me that the team is looking to potentially add a receiver in the first or second round in this year's draft class, whether it be Addison, whether it be Smith-Njigba. They are at least considering the idea of bringing in an elite receiver prospect in to join the likes of Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, maybe even Steven Sims if he comes back. Calvin Austin III, of course, is coming back from injury. We know that he can be dynamic. So if you add a guy like Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith-Njigba, all of which can play in the slot, I think that this wide receiver room goes from really, really good to one of the best in the National Football League, if you are asking me. But let me know in the comment section right now. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers consider drafting a wide receiver in round 1 of the 2023 NFL Draft? Type hell yes or hell no in the comment section. This is the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get an ad break, go ahead and go into the comment section, find that pinned comment, and answer today's question. Now, to me, I think that the Steelers should focus more on the trenches and that a wide receiver pick in round 1 should be kind of a last resort, right? You got your guys on the offensive line and on the defensive line that you like, and then if those guys aren't there, and then if all the cornerback prospects that you like aren't there as well, then maybe you can shift to a wide receiver like a Jordan Addison. But in my opinion, you got to go offensive tackle, defensive line, and then cornerback before you can think about going wide receiver. But that's just me. Now let's get into some of the tight end prospects that the Steelers have been talking to this week. Michael Mayer, some people say he's the best tight end in this year's draft class. Going to be a first-round pick. They talked to him in a formal meeting this week. They also had a formal meeting with Blake Whiteheart from Wake Forest. He's projected to be a later-round pick, and then they had 3 informal meetings. So if you see a little asterisk there next to the name, that means it was an informal meeting. Sam Laporta out of Iowa, kind of a mid-round kind of guy, and then Brenton Strange and Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion. Both of those guys are probably going to go late. They also met with the the Steelers. So before I get into the other positions that the Steelers met with this week, let's have a word from our sponsor at BetUS, and they're offering you guys a fantastic deal just in time for March Madness. Guys, we talk football here on this show, but March Madness is one of the most exciting times of the year to be a sports fan. They are offering you guys a 125% deposit bonus when you use promo code Steelers125 at chatsports.com/bet. So when those big games are happening, it is tournament time. You can go ahead, place your bets on some of the biggest games of the year in college basketball. So go ahead, use promo code Steelers125 at chatsports.com/bet to get that 125% deposit bonus. All right, so now the Steelers probably aren't going to be looking too deeply into quarterbacks, but they did meet with a couple of guys informally. Clayton Tune from Houston, they met with him outside of a formal setting. Same thing with Max Duggan from TCU. They might be looking to add a quarterback maybe in the 7th round if there's a guy that they really like back there to be Kenny Pickett's future backup, but I wouldn't look too deeply into what they are looking at quarterback at the Combine. Now let's move on to some of the more important positions here for the Steelers, starting with defensive tackle. They met with Brian Brzee, Clemson defensive tackle. They're in the 1st round. He has an established relationship with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin really likes this kid. I think he's a bit raw. I'm not a big fan of really any of the big name Clemson players on defense this season, to be honest with you. But he is an athletic freak. I will give you that. And then Mike Tomlin also has an established relationship with him, so that's definitely a possibility. Mike Morris out of Michigan had an informal meeting. Going to be probably a day 2 pick. Byron Young from Alabama, another day 2 pick, had a meeting. And then you look at some of the bigger guys that they looked at here. Jervin Dexter and Keandre Coburn, nose tackle type of guys, one techniques. Jervin Dexter's probably going to go earlier, probably round 2, and then Keandre Coburn probably going to slip to day 3, but both of those guys pretty solid prospects. And then Cam Young from Mississippi State, going to be a day 3 guy. They also had a formal meeting with him as well. So it's looking like to me that defensive tackle is probably not going to be the move for the Steelers on day 1, in round 1. I think they're probably going to be looking for one in day 2, whether it be Jervin Dexter or somebody else. I really think that it's looking like a day 2 pick to me, because the guys that they're looking at are projected to go rounds 2 to 3. They're not really looking at the top guys like a Kalijah Cansey or Jalen Carter. They didn't have those guys in for meetings this week, so it's looking like the Steelers are going to be trying to target other things here in round 1, like maybe edge rusher. You look at some of the guys that they've talked to this week. Nolan Smith ran sub 4.4 yesterday as a 240-pound man. That guy is an extremely talented and freakish athlete. He's going to go in round 1. He might not even make it to the Steelers at 17 now, because his stock is skyrocketing right now. Lucas Van Ness, another guy that's skyrocketing up draft boards right now, ran a really good 40 time for his size yesterday. Maybe the best bull rush, had a formal meeting with the Steelers. And then Derek Hall, informal meeting, probably a day 2 kind of guy. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, someone that's been mocked to the Steelers a ton this draft season, probably a 2nd round pick. He had a formal meeting with the Steelers. And then also, there's a lot of edge rushers. I'm just going to tell you guys. They also met with Nick Herbig from Wisconsin, someone that's been a riser in this prospect, probably going to be, or in this process, I should say. Probably going to be a round 2 pick. Dylan Horton, an informal meeting, probably a later round guy. Lonnie Phelps from Kansas, and Tyrus Wheat, some day 3 guys to round out that group. So who's a defensive lineman, either defensive tackle or edge, that you want the Steelers to draft this season? It can be anybody. It can be a round 1 guy. It can be a late round guy. It can be a sleeper, whatever you want. Let me know in the comment section right now, what's a defensive lineman you want the Steelers to draft this season? Now let's get into the linebackers here, where Drew Sanders, somebody that a lot of Steelers fans like, probably going to go round 2 as an inside linebacker. Harrison Graham, our Bears host, likes to call him Micah Parsons Light. I'm not too sure about that. He's probably going to be an inside linebacker, not an edge rusher, but he is definitely a great blitzer, and Mike Tomlin loves him some inside linebackers that can blitz. Noah Sewell, another guy that a lot of Steelers fans like. He's sliding down draft boards a little bit, but he had a formal meeting with the Steelers, said he really had a good time with Mike Tomlin. DeMarvin Overshown from Texas, some really long arms on this guy, probably a round 3, like late round 3 or early round 4 kind of guy, met informally with the Steelers. Ivan Pace, another great blitzer from Cincinnati, met with the Steelers with a formal meeting. Henry To'oTo'o from Alabama, a guy that I kind of like as a 5th round value there. He also met with the Steelers. And then Shaka Hayward from Duke. I think he's probably going to go undrafted, but he did have a formal meeting with the Steelers, which is definitely interesting. Now let's move over to safety, where they met with Brian Branch from Alabama, maybe the most versatile defensive back in this entire draft class. Some people like to say he's a corner. Some people say he's a safety. For our purposes here, we're going to put him in the safety category. Definitely a first-round pick. If he's there at 17, look for the Steelers to consider him. Antonio Johnson, kind of a bigger body safety there. Probably going to go round 2. He had an informal meeting with the Steelers. Jamie Robinson, Florida State safety, another big dude, another versatile guy, probably a day 2 pick. Jordan Battle said he really does emulate his game after Minkah Fitzpatrick. Probably a round 3 pick, said he would love to play for the Steelers. And then they also talked to J.L. Skinner from Boise State, Jair Brown from Penn State, Brandon Joseph from Notre Dame, and Trey Dean, a safety that a lot of Steelers fans have mocked to them in the later rounds. And he had an informal meeting with the Steelers as well. So, guys, here's the thing. If you give me a follow on Twitter right now at Jack_Sperry, here is my promise to you. You will get a shout-out on the next Steelers Talk live show. We have them every single Thursday. So go ahead, follow me on Twitter at Jack_Sperry if you want a shout-out on the show. So now let's get into the big one here, the cornerback class. Steelers talked with a lot of cornerbacks this week, and the big one is Joey Porter Jr. because he's really the only first-round guy that they talked to. They didn't talk with Christian Gonzalez, right? They didn't talk with Devin Witherspoon, but apparently they talked with Joey Porter Jr. in a formal meeting, and it went very, very well. He very well could be the cornerback that they are targeting in round 1. He's from Pittsburgh. He knows Mike Tomlin, and his family grew up with his sons, but they also talked with a bunch of other corners, including all these guys that are projected to go in the second round. Deonte Banks ran a 4.36 today at the Combine today. Cam Smith, another really good player there, second round. Kelly Ringo ran sub 4.4 at like 210 pounds. Like, this guy is a freak. He's probably going to go round 2, but he might be slipping up to round 1 after that 40 time. And then Emmanuel Forbes had another guy that ran a really fast 40. He ran a 4.35 unofficial time today. Really good time for Emmanuel Forbes. Then Clark Phillips, kind of a smaller guy, but he's definitely a baller. He's one of the best in man coverage in this class. He's going to go round 2, had a formal meeting with the Steelers. And then there's a bunch of other guys that they talked to. Eli Ricks, definitely a boomer bust kind of guy, but he's probably going to go round 2. Jalen Jones, a third rounder. Garrett Williams has dealt with some injuries. He had a formal meeting with the Steelers, probably a third round pick. Darius Rush, the other South Carolina cornerback other than Cam Smith, he had a formal meeting with the Steelers. And then Julius Brents, I have him down as a 5th round pick right now because the consensus big board says that he's a 5th round value, but I'm pretty sure that this guy's going to move up. He is a physical freak. He's got long arms. He ran a pretty darn good 40 time today. I think he's probably going to be moving up into that day 2 range after what he did. He had a formal meeting with the Steelers as well. So it's looking to me that if Joey Porter is there, they would probably take him. But if he's not there, and that's a very real possibility, guys, Joey Porter Jr. is a very, very good player. I think that they will defer to take a corner on day 2. I think Joey Porter is their guy, but if he's not there, they're going to take a cornerback on day 2. So let me know in the comments section right now, is that the right move? Which day should the Steelers draft a cornerback in this year's NFL draft? Type 1 if you think day 1, so that's just round 1, or type 2 if you think day 2, which is rounds 2 and 3. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me today. I appreciate you, Steeler Nation. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.